Tokenize, the YouTube channel that shows you the faces of blockchain-based real economy. Subscribe and find out how you can be a part of it.
My name is Katya Fisher. I am a partner at the law firm of Greenspoon Martyr, where I run the blockchain and technology transactions practice.
Hi, my name is Telpner. I had the fintech and blockchain practice at the law firm Sullivan & Worcester. I don't think they are. I think they're trying to balance between putting too heavy of a hand out and smashing everything down and destroying it before it gets off the ground, and they're trying to balance that against sitting back so much that things get out of hand and go in the wrong direction. So I think it's really a kind of a tightrope they're walking. They want this technology to develop. They want this innovation to occur, but they want it to be done in a way that isn't causing all kinds of problems at the consumer level. They don't want people to be out there committing fraud and criminal activity, so they're intervening when they need to, and I think they're trying to stand aside when they feel they can, let the market try to enforce itself when appropriate.
So I think another issue that you have to keep in mind when we're talking about regulators like the SEC is the fact that it's not up to them to make law. And their job is to interpret the law and to carry it out, right? But we haven't had enough court cases yet. We haven't seen judges getting involved, and we haven't seen legislators getting involved. And at the end of the day, regulators are trying to do exactly what Joel said, which is they want to balance this fine line between over-regulating and not allowing this industry to flourish, and at the same time allowing people to just go, crazy. And at the end of the day, what we really need to start seeing is we need to start seeing more lobbyists, and we need to start seeing more legislators getting involved and wanting to see what new laws could look like.
By the way, though, that's a great point, because if somebody is out there selling a security, even though they're calling it a token, if what they really are doing is selling security, the regulators can't simply ignore that. If they are violating law, then they're obligated, as you say. They have to do something about it. So there are times where they're going to step in, even if maybe philosophically they wish they didn't have to. I think we saw that in part. So if you go back and look at the so-called ICO cycle, ICO started, in 2017, really, and really ballooned, and they were ballooning in 2018, and regulators didn't step in on day one, but over time what they saw were more and more people selling tokens, maybe cutting corners, putting out white papers that really didn't provide much in the way of disclosure, being pretty ambiguous as to what the rights were that you got when you bought a token, being a little bit cagey about whether there was going to be an ongoing team, and then putting tokens out there and changing the code once it was out there. So all of these things, as the regulators are watching that, they're starting to see a lot of potential for consumers to get hurt because they're buying things that they don't really understand, they may be buying things they shouldn't buy. And as that phenomenon grew and grew and grew, I think it was harder for the folks like the SEC to just sit on the sidelines and not at some point say, whoa, 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 enough is enough.
So what's very funny about this industry is that everyone in it seems to think that everything is brand new. That the concepts are brand new, that the regulations are brand new, that the ideas are brand new. I had my law firm for almost a decade, representing tech companies from around the world on their business interests in the United States. I've done things that pertain to corporate law, intellectual property law, tax law, even business immigration. It's exactly the same. It's all the same stuff applied to a new industry. There are certain regulatory issues that are very, very specific to this particular industry, but for the most part, we're applying our knowledge base and our experience that we've brought in from BC, before crypto, to a new industry.
I think that's right. It's really a new medium or new means of doing things that people have done already. And so now, when we're looking at it as lawyers, we have to look at the existing regulatory regime and we say, all right, is what is being done so different, unique, that current regulations don't apply? Or is what's being done just somewhat different such that we need to figure out how existing regulations apply and maybe at times work with regulators to tweak those regulations? One of the examples of how those challenges or worlds come together is in the case of tokens, because tokens are software. And by definition, when you're talking about software, you can use software to do all kinds of different things. So we've never had before an instrument or an asset, whatever you want to call it, that can be different depending on why it's being created, depending on who's selling it, how it's being sold, who's buying it, how they're using it. So at the same time, a token can represent an ownership interest, potentially an equity stake, but can also be used to purchase goods and services or to get access to a product or platform. So the one difference we've had is that technology is taking a number of different types of activities and transactions, mushing them all together, and then us lawyers have to figure out, okay, well, which regime applies to it. So it's not that the law isn't there; it's just figuring out how to match that law to where the technology is going.
Look, even when we talk about, for example, the recent SEC decision on turnkey, right? All the SEC decision did was basically rehash a decision that the SEC made in 1958 with respect to tokens that are used as metro cards or for flying, for different types of transportation, right? So they're looking at a new technology, they're looking at it in 2019, it's the same stuff all over again, and it's just figuring out how to apply those regimes to this new era. Now, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't have new laws and new regulation to fit this new framework, but as lawyers, just like as the SEC, it's not our job to make the law. It's our job to figure out where the issues are and to help our clients along.
One of the things that's been going on in the market is that as people have gotten involved in this technology, there was this, I think this maybe utopian view that wasn't correct, which was this is so new, so different, it's beyond existing regulatory regimes. And so what a lot of we do as lawyers is try to remind people on the tech side, as cool and as unique and interesting as your products are, you haven't somehow made something that's beyond law and beyond regulation. You may create some challenges that we interpret the laws and regulations, but you haven't made laws and regulations obsolete. That is a debate I know I have, and you probably have with clients all the time.
So the 1958 decision is a specific piece of regulatory guidance with respect to metro tokens and travel. So we're actually talking, what you're talking about goes back way before the 1950s, right? We're talking about a we're talking about a very big body of law. Now, with respect to the regulatory framework as it stands currently, yes, we have regulations in place. We're trying to figure out how to apply them to a new dynamic, to a new technology, but we don't have new laws. And what's interesting about this industry is that this industry has pinpointed where the laws probably need to be updated, right? Some of the things that I think that I admire very, very much about the industry is that you got an entire generation of young people thinking about what is money? Why is it okay for me to go to a casino and lose all of my money, but I can't invest in a startup, right? These sorts of conceptual thoughts. I graduated law school when everyone was throwing themselves out of the windows on Wall Street during Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, right? So the question becomes, when you take a look at what happened in 2008 during that time period, did the laws that we have in place really protect us, right? So the fact that this industry is bringing about all of these conceptual discussions, I think is really, really interesting. But that doesn't mean that the law has caught up to it yet.
You know, so essentially, the head of the SEC was right in July 2017 when he said all the necessary laws to regulate the ICO space are already in place. All we have to do is follow the law.
I do agree with that. Yeah. Look, think of it this way. So back when the U.S. security laws were written in the 30s, if you bought and sold a share of stock, it was recorded on paper. Somebody manually wrote it in a log, but the laws were there to protect you as a consumer against fraud and unscrupulous activities by issuers. Then we went to typewriters. So we now started using typewriters to record the securities. The need to protect consumers didn't change. Then we went to computers. We first started to have security transactions that were, put into databases instead of paper certificates. But still there again, the same justification for protecting consumers still existed. Now we're talking about trading those securities digitally on a blockchain. Once again, though, that doesn't nullify the need to protect consumers. So we've gone from the 1930s to multiple ways to represent an ownership interest in a company. There's certain things they do better, certain things we do better. One of the things that I am envious of is that they don't have bifurcated regulatory regime the way we do. They don't have a separate SEC versus CFTC, so they're able to be more efficient, I think, because they've got one global regulatory body. But as far as the conceptual approach, I think they're virtually the same. Both the US and the UK start with the proposition that one, you've got rules and regulations to help protect individual investors to make sure that they're not being fleeced and losing money. And then secondly, you're protecting the integrity of the markets themselves to make sure that we don't have excessive unintended systemic risk in the market. So both jurisdictions have those same objectives, and I think with variations, they really basically do the same thing the same way.
Hoping to get out of it alive, you know? I mean, look, there are a few things. I was at Consensus last year. The industry has changed by leaps and bounds. Month to month to month in the past year, it's been fascinating to see how much it's transformed. So it's really, really interesting to be here 1 year later, look back, see what's happening currently, see what's going on. It's still changing moment to moment. I mean, look what's happening with Bitcoin right now. All of a sudden, it's made this massive resurrection, right?
They'll go more after they see this broadcast of yours.
I need to buy some Bitcoin right now. No, I'm just kidding. So that's become really, really interesting. It's just to see the difference. Obviously, Joel and I are both here because we're speaking at a lot of events. We're hoping to actually disseminate some quality information. I have a lot of meetings. I'm sure Joel does as well. It's an opportunity to see so many people who are here from around the world who we wouldn't get to see in person otherwise.
I really have nothing I can add to that, but I will add, I guess, one hope that I see that.
That was actually the point of the question. Yeah. I thought maybe you were hoping for something.
Well,
I was hoping to hear, what was it?
What are you hoping for?
Well, see, no, you're exactly right that how the market, even from a year ago, is different. Yeah. So I'm anxious to see a greater level of maturity that's coming into Consensus. More, I guess, enterprises and startups coming together, more people talking about blockchain technology and solutions as opposed to just crypto. And if that comes out of this, I'll be really happy because that will show that we are now moving beyond the first stage of this tech cycle into a second, somewhat more mature piece, and that would be awesome.
Tokenize, the YouTube channel that narrates blockchain-based asset tokenization for you. All you have to do is subscribe and let the real economy reveal itself to you.